What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Halftime Snacks podcast. This show features short interviews that you can listen during the halftime of your favorite sports events. Every Tuesday, I host fun conversations with talented people in the sports industry, where we'll learn from their stories, knowledge, and experiences. So go grab your favorite snack and come snack with us. Are you ready? Let's go! Today's halftime snack features a former Division I tennis player who runs a fantastic branding company. Originally from Germany, but joining the show from Nebraska, is a self-taught entrepreneur who's obsessed with helping college athletes with tools for storytelling, networking, and monetization. This is why he's the CEO and founder of FanWord, a platform that is helping college athletes to build, monetize, and protect their brand. This man accepted our invitation to the show with zero hesitation, and I'm sure we're all going to learn so much from him. Buckle up for today's halftime snack with the one and only Christopher Aumueller.
Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
What's up, Christopher? How are you, man?
Fantastic. Never had an intro like this. Well done. Appreciate it.
Well, welcome to the Halftime Snacks, man. It's a pleasure to have you here. I want to kick off our conversation with a icebreaker, and I want to know, what is your favorite sports-related movie, man?
Oh boy. On top of my head, I probably would say Moneyball. Watched that one a handful of times, and always find it very, very insightful and inspiring to a degree. So, but I also actually, at this point, now that I think about it, I have to list Balls Out, Gary the tennis coach. Not a lot of people probably have heard of that movie, but one of the writers is a friend of mine, and a lot of the movie is actually about my head coach from Nebraska. So there were a ton of similarities, and it's just a blast watching that movie and knowing my head coach personally and seeing those parallels. So if you haven't seen that movie, go check it out.
We have so many things to learn from that, but also so many things to learn from you, Chris. Man, I'm so excited to have you on the show. We're gonna be talking about your story, your background, what brought you into like collegiate sports, what made you start FanWord. We're gonna talk about all that, but first of all, I want to talk about this topic that is super trending at the moment. Name, image, likeness in college sports. It's all over the news. It's happening everywhere. So how about you just kick off the conversation by explaining us what is that? Very basic term. Why is it important? And why exactly is it trending right now?
Sure. Yeah, happy to. So, NIL stands for name, image, and likeness. And in a nutshell, what it means is that student athletes can now really for the first time ever monetize their name, image, and likeness, or their personal brand, really, if you like. And it's been in the making for I think roughly 2 years ago, almost, or a year and a half ago, was the first time we kind of heard conversations about this happening. And then, if you've been following the whole topic for a while, there was a lot of back and forth and not a whole lot of clarity really coming from either federal government or the NCAA for that matter, until really, recently. And then states started Florida was the first state to kind of enact a state law that would allow student athletes to, monetize their name, image, and likeness. And then several states followed. Many states have followed by now. The NCAA came up now with an interim policy, and pretty much as of July 1st, so roughly like a week and a half ago, student athletes all over the country can monetize their personal brands. And as you can imagine, it just kind of revolutionizes the space. It's a completely new era. Lots of, uncertainty, lots of questions, lots of gray area, lots of, opportunity and excitement as well, obviously. So yeah, super stoked about what's going on in the space. And yeah, it's going to be exciting to see how it all plays out over the next couple of months and in the year.
For you as a former tennis player, as an athlete at one of the most highest levels before pro, how does that feel in terms of like not being able to monetize your brand or get your name out there, or get involved with different like brands or projects? How does that feel? Is it really like limiting everyone, or is it not really that like everyone gets chances? Because like if I think about college athletes, like I think about Zion, or the big ones, like the most popular ones before they
Mm-hmm.
go pro. But I wonder if, like,
Mm-hmm.
at every level there's opportunities and to monetize NIL, and so this one really opens up the door
Mm-hmm.
for everyone, or is it more about the highest, the best performing athletes? What are your thoughts about that?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I have a very, very strong opinion on this, and ever since NIL became a topic of interest, we've been advocating for this from the get-go. Like, we were pretty loud about, NIL not just going to impact, football and basketball players at a Power Five school. And the media, obviously, when things became a little bit more interesting, it's just more sexy, right? To talk about, hey, Trevor Lawrence could make $500,000 if NIL rules were enforced today, or so it's just it's just a headline that grabs a little bit more attention than saying, hey, every athlete can make $10 or $20, right? But long story short, I think what people need to understand is that, sure, will you see a tennis player at a Division II school sign $100,000 endorsement deal? Probably not, right? But there's so much more to NIL than just, again, even just endorsement opportunities in general, right? I mean, there you can give private lessons and camps and clinics, and you can start your own companies. You can, go on Cameo and sell, personalized video shout outs. So people that, I'm making stuff up here right now, but if you're a great singer or into poetry or whatever, you can monetize those skills, right? You can partner with brands if you're like have a passion for some sort of a niche area, and maybe that doesn't result in those high, revenue numbers. But if we can help athletes, for instance, make a couple $100 each year, or a few thousand each year, or even if they just get some free products and services in exchange for some, love on social media, those things are super noteworthy and important to talk about. So to answer your question, I 100% believe that NIL is for everyone, and it's just a matter of these athletes doing it the right way and wanting to do it too. And sure, I mean, if you think once July 1st hit that hundreds of brands are going to hit you up, you're probably mistaken, right? I mean, nobody's going to hold your hand and do it for you. There's plenty of platforms out there that will help you, but at the end of the day, it's still up to you. And I'm 100% convinced that everybody can benefit from this. Yeah.
That now that you're mentioning, I'm thinking that this is also a big step for brands that are not as big as Nike or Gatorade or super huge brands.
Course,
Why?
yeah.
The reason why, and this is what I'm thinking. Tell me if I'm wrong, but you correct me because you're the one that knows. But let's suppose that you're a small brand that you can only work with small athlete. That gives you a chance to make asymmetric bets. And what I mean is that you can bet on people that might, eventually break out and be very, very successful and become, the next Tom Brady. For instance, Tom Brady was drafted, I don't remember in what round, right? And he was like, he's the GOAT. So
Yep.
so this is your chance to really bet or get involved with players that are not as big as of now, that have the potential,
Yep.
right? You can bet on potential. And so that's something that you couldn't do before, and now you can. So this is really an opportunity also for brands, not only for athletes, to get involved with these players that will bring more exposure for them later in their careers, if that makes any sense.
100%. Yeah. I mean, that's a great way to look at it. I mean, in general, I mean, if you look at professional athletes, you may have like 5,000, and you have roughly, 500,000 student athletes, right? And sure, there's one way to look at it is, work with somebody early now who doesn't have maybe that star potential yet, right? Obviously, also in terms of price points, you pay a lot less now for a college Tom Brady than for a professional Tom Brady, right? But even if it's not going to be somebody that's going to explode, like you have the ability to work with, because it's such a huge pool of folks, right? You can work with. I'm making stuff up right now again, but if you're a local brand and you partner with 5 student athletes from the university in your town that all have 2,000, 3,000 followers, for instance, or have some sort of affiliation to the city and the maybe even the brand in some capacity, that is so valuable, and you don't have to pay huge amounts of money for collaborating with them. A lot of those folks probably might work with you for some free products and services. So You don't have to pay for agents at this point. You don't really have to pay for, like, when you catch these student athletes at an earlier stage in their careers, they're a lot more affordable is really what it comes down to. And yeah, to your point, certainly the opportunity to get in early with somebody who you think might explode over the next couple of years. And there's plenty of stories, right? Obviously in college sports. But even if they don't make, the spotlight after college and maybe turn professional, still so much opportunity, particularly for local brands that may not have the, marketing budget to work with a professional athlete. But athletes in general are the best influencers. They have more engagement, higher engagement rates, and every city has a university, and these athletes are often a star in these cities or even in their hometown. So yes, it just opens up so much marketing potential for smaller local brands as 100%. Yeah.
So many takeaways. Thank you for sharing that, Christoph. What is the story, man, of FanWord? How did you came up with it? Was it an experience of yours that made you, realize there's an issue, there's a problem, there's an opportunity? And what are the specific products and services? I know that you have FanWord Coach, and I know that you kind of like educate people around NIL. So just give us a little bit of an outlook of what it is that you offer and how it is divided, and who is this for?
Yep. Happy to. No, of course. So, as you mentioned already at the beginning, I was a tennis player for the Huskers. And the idea for FanWord actually came from my time as an athlete. I just happened to know so many friends and other teams and sports that did phenomenal things. And I felt like they deserved a little bit more of the recognition and the spotlight than they actually got. And what I wanted to do was to figure out a way to help these, again, athletes and sports and teams that weren't always in the spotlight get a little bit more of that recognition I felt like they deserved. And that's really what sparked the idea behind FanWord. And at first, and we still do a lot of that, it's actually what we're probably mostly known for. We pretty much offered, if you're familiar with the Players Tribune, picture that as a service to schools. So we partner with athletic departments. We call that product FanWord Stories. We partner with athletic departments, and we pretty much create a site and these powerful and unique stories about their athletes, their coaches, their alumni, and we put it all on this site and really try to humanize the brand, really try to humanize these athletes and give fans an opportunity to get to know them from a whole different level. So that's really what we, I guess, as a company became known for, and we do that for literally schools at every level, from an Alabama and a Nebraska and an SMU to, mid-major D1 schools like a Liberty or a Presbyterian College or an Oakland or, plenty of schools on that front. And then once NIL became a thing, we started reaching out to our partners and other athletic departments and just got a feel for what it is that they need. And then FanWord Coach is kind of the result of all of this, which is essentially an NIL education and compliance product. So we work with athletic departments, help educate their student athletes, what they can do, what they can't do, how to build their personal brands, tax implications, financial literacy, how to interpret contracts, podcasting, gaming, like literally anything you could possibly think of. And we also help compliance staff kind of, with the deal monitoring and tracking, because they have to, they're required to pretty much manage it themselves at this point. So that's all part of FanWord Coach. So technically, to answer your question, we really have two business units, I guess, for the lack of a better word. One is specifically geared towards athletic departments, and that is FanWord Stories and FanWord Coach, right, as two separate products. And then the other unit is more geared towards brands and really helping them kind of navigate this space and execute campaigns, and really kind of consult also on, just the student athlete side of things and how they can work with student athletes and what they need to pay attention to. You don't want to make the wrong type of headlines and, get a student athlete in trouble because he or she forgets to, submit their NIL activities. So just kind of, it's a different market than professional, athletes. And so we just help these brands kind of navigate that space as well and execute really these campaigns. So yeah, long story short, those are really the kind of two big units, I would say. Yeah.
And in what ways do you expect the new rules for NIL to benefit or affect your business model or your business models
Yeah, I honestly think not too much. I really think we were well positioned with FanWord stories already, which we kind of back in the day pitched a little bit more as a, hey, just fan engagement, kind of deal. Get your fans more engaged and make them become more loyal fans and use it for sponsorships, et cetera, et cetera. Which all obviously still applies, but now we just add another layer of helping your athletes, build their brands and really get their story told, which they can then leverage for monetization. And NIL also opens up so many more stories to tell, right? I mean, you can now tell stories of athletes launching their own companies or launching their own podcasts, or what it was like to learn from some of the best in the business, and what it meant to them, right? There are just so many stories you can tell. Like we always say, you know, athletes don't just have like that saying, everyone has a story. We kind of not hate it, but we completely disagree. We always say, every athlete has thousands of stories, right? And it's just a matter of telling the right ones and picking the right ones. So that NIL is just kind of amplifying, I think, the need for that. And then obviously what we currently do, the education and compliance side of things, in full transparency, I think that might have a a timeline or a deadline. I guess I say that, Prada, because at some point every school will have something in place to monitor these activities, to educate student athletes. By far not there yet. So there's plenty of opportunity there. But we're already, I think one of the cool things about NIL, there's so much opportunity, and we get approached by individual athletes, and brands reach out, and we have to kind of navigate it the right way ourselves, and stay focused on what we know best. But to answer your question, I think FanWord Stories continues to be a big one. Now FanWord Coach certainly is going to be, it's really solving a big problem. And then, there are plenty of other things in the making already, but it's all going to be geared towards, helping these student athletes build, protect, and monetize their brands. And whether that's direct to athletes at some point, or, a separate product, or, if we bring it all together under one umbrella, like, time will tell. I think, we're amongst the first movers, and as a first mover in any industry, you will have to adjust eventually. And for now, we're pretty excited with where we're at, but we'll see how things evolve. Like, we think we're in a good position, and certainly on the right track right now.
So let me distill and tell me if I'm wrong, just to make it clear for everyone listening. So we have FanWord Coach, and we have FanWord Stories. Both are
Mm-hmm.
directed services for athlete departments or athletes
Yep.
themselves. What, like who do you serve directly? You serve the athletes, or you serve the
Athletic
departments?
departments. Yep. We currently don't serve anything or offer anything directly to athletes.
Okay.
Again, we get approached by a lot, meaning we think about possibly adding some services there. But for now, it's all geared towards athletic departments. Yep.
So it's like a B2B kind of
Yep.
service.
Exactly. Yep.
And then you also have a fan word for brands, which is also B2B, and it's where
Yep.
you kind of like help brands, do things right with their
Yep.
sponsorships and
Yep.
collaborations.
With student athlete campaigns. Yep. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Any idea for a future product for B2C, something that you
Mm-hmm.
work directly with the athletes, or not in the
Yeah.
in the books?
I mean, again, like there's a lot that we're working on, to be honest with you, in the background. Not sure, we need to
So
share too much about it, but let's
drop us
drop it right
what's
now.
hot, man. Drop
But
it what is hot.
all right, no, let's drop that for now, because we don't want to spread anything, and then it just doesn't happen or whatever. But let me I mean, again, there's a lot of opportunity, and it's always great when you get approached and asked for a service that you can provide and just currently maybe aren't, to really think about adding that to your portfolio. But at the same time, we don't want to go into like 1,000 different directions, right? So it has to align
Right.
with who we are, what we stand for, and what we're good at. But yeah, there's a few things in the making, and we'll be sure in the next couple of months there's maybe something else coming out. Yeah.
Super exciting,
Yeah.
Chris.
Thanks.
Okay, for all the athletes listening, the episode, and they are wondering, like, okay, so I don't know anything about brand management. I don't know what to do with my own brand. What is some advice that you would say that is very common in the industry that you disagree with, or what is some advice that you think athletes shouldn't follow what are some myths in brand management for athletes that you disagree with, and why? Just how they should think about and how they shouldn't think about building their brands.
It's something that we actually talk about a lot right now. One of the big flaws that we see right now is that student athletes, I think they're skipping the most important step a little bit, and all they're trying to, or I shouldn't even phrase it maybe that way, but we see a lot of athletes kind of only thinking about the dollar sign. They see an opportunity, they see these early opportunities with brands to get involved with these brands, and they just want to jump in on it, make a couple bucks here, make a couple bucks there, and really take advantage of these rules. And we really urge athletes, student athletes, I should say, to really take a step back, and really think about first and foremost what kind of brand they want to build, who they are, and really kind of come up with a plan. Because the last thing you want to do, and we see a lot of that already happening, athletes just randomly posting, hey, I signed an endorsement deal with X, and this is their product, and it's just no brand fit, and you can tell they only did it to make $20, right? So their audience is not going to buy in, meaning there's no value for the brand. The brand probably, a lot of brands do it for the PR right now, just to be amongst the first. But long story short, when other brands will approach you next couple of months and years, they will look at your partnerships that you've done in the past. And if they see, you just pretty much saying yes to any product, they know, at least a lot of the brands will know, all right, there's not going to be a whole lot of value because he just takes, there's no authenticity, right? So they're lacking this authentic brand fit, which has a lot of impact on the results of a campaign. So in general, I think the messaging right now a lot is about, you got to post, or you got to jump in on these opportunities now that they're available, et cetera, et cetera. And they always kind of skip that, or you got to be on TikTok, and they kind of skip, the most important one, which once again is really just coming up with a plan for yourself, and really understand the type of brand you want to build, and who do you want to work with, what do you stand for, what are you passionate about, what does your audience like, why do they follow you, and really then, based on those insights, understand the type of brands you should partner with, the type of activities you should take advantage of, and really just you don't want to you don't want to do anything that gets your audience upset or pissed off because you just do it for a quick buck. A lot of these athletes also just kind of don't read the fine print right now in a lot of these deals, and they just give away their rights for infinity for a couple of bucks. And just in general, again, I think if I have to summarize this, don't rush it. Take your time, really understand, once again, I know I'm repeating myself, the type of brand you want to build, who you are, what you're passionate about, what you stand for, and then go from there. NIL is not going anywhere, and it's perfectly okay if you didn't strike a deal in the first 9 days. Perfectly okay. NIL is here to stay. It'll be here in years to come. So, that's probably the biggest thing I would say to that question. I know I kind of rephrased it a little bit or approached it from a different angle, but hopefully that still works. Yeah.
No, I think I agree with you. Not rushing and preparing a plan is probably one of the first advice they give you in the military, right? You're never going to war without a plan, so think about it same way. Probably a little bit extreme with my example over here, but kind of gets the point through. In your experience, most athletes need someone to explain them how it works, or most athletes get it, or as long as they are in socials and see what everyone else is doing, kind of get their idea of where they stand? Or what do you think? Do you think consultants, outside consultants, or I don't even know how to say it, managers are the ones that are supposed to be knowing about this and explaining their athletes, or athletes? Or is there any book that athletes should go and read, or any type of other content that you suggest those athletes to go and look for, to learn and understand more about it? Or just better if you go and assess yourself with a professional company or someone like you? What do you suggest?
I think that there's two things you need to think about. First of all is when it comes to, if you're a student athlete, there's brand building, right? Which sure you can learn from experts, you can learn from books, you can learn from just Google research, you can learn from others, right? And then there's the compliance side, the protective side right now. Like there are things you have to do to not lose eligibility, to not run into any sort of compliance risks. You have to educate yourself about this, and that is schools' responsibility at this point, right? Whether the schools do it themselves or partner with a company like us to make, to enforce that. We're not trying to say everybody needs to partner with us, right? But that's what we do, right? We try to help on that front. On the brand building side, same thing, right? We also help with that, right? But at the same time, there are resources out there, and that athletes can look up themselves, and we actually encourage them to do that, right? I mean, what we tell them is not going to be meant as everything you will ever need to know, we'll tell you, right? I mean, we encourage them. We actually refer to certain resources out there and people to follow and people to look into, to do that, because I mean, the best way to learn it is to learn it yourself, right? To do it yourself. But at the same time, once again, I really want to emphasize this, when it comes to student athletes, there's more to just building your brand and making money. Like, you have to protect yourself first and foremost, and that is something that you might understand some of the rules, but you have to understand state laws, NCAA law. You have to understand your school's internal policy. So there are things you probably need to educate yourself on by having folks talk to you about it. And I think most student athletes should work with their coaches, work with their athletic department on answering some of these questions, whether it's pertaining to brand building or to compliance, and whether those schools then have a partner like us or try to manage it in-house, that's obviously up to them. But yeah, I think it's a little bit of a combination of both, to be honest with you.
Man, I do want to come back to this conversation in a year's time and sit down together with you to see what's changed, what has grown, what's different. I think that since we're really at the beginning, and things are going to move so fast, and you're going to see so many new different types of companies, technologies, and partnerships being made during the next couple of months. So I think it's going to be fascinating to see where FanWord is going to be then. So I'm gonna just write it down in my agenda right after we finish eating this super delicious snack, Christoph. But I can't really leave without asking you a more personal question. This is just to get more of like your spirit and who you are, who you see yourself as. So let's suppose that the year is 2050. That's about 30 years from now. What do you see yourself doing? Where do you see yourself? What's happening around you? What are you, who you dealing with, who you're talking with? What's up with you in 30 years, Christoph?
Lots of gray hair, that's for sure, given the entrepreneurial route so far. But no, I genuinely think that this is where I excel in. Like, I've always had an entrepreneurial plug my whole life. Even as a 16-year-old, when I launched a graphic design discussion board. I'm a self-taught graphic designer, and I launched a graphic design discussion board back home in Germany. And we grew it to like the third largest in the country with over 13,000 members. So I've always had kind of this entrepreneurial plug, and I really feel fulfillment in work and career. And obviously, there were plenty of roadblocks along the way already, and pivots and all that, which I think is just a normal agenda for an entrepreneur. But I'm in an industry that I don't think there's anything out there that I'm more passionate about, that I feel more, shouldn't say more qualified for, because there are other areas that I like to think I know my stuff. But college sports, student athletes kind of, entirely changed my life. And it's just really something that I see myself do for the rest of my life, to be honest with you. In a perfect world, this is with FanWord. And, just because, again, this is not, people start businesses for all sorts of reasons. Some do it for, they see an opportunity, they just want to make money. Some do it out of passion, which is, what my case was. And just really, seeing, like, if we can help these athletes, with that, navigate this space and make money, tell their stories, and help all these different players in the industry, it's such a huge reward. And so as lame as it sounds, in a perfect world, I see myself do what we do today. Helping athletes, helping athletic departments, helping brands in the college sports space. Telling stories, building brands. 2050, I'm still hopefully CEO and founder of FanWord.
Man, it's so inspiring to hear you talk about it. We can hear your passion and your devotion towards it, man, and that is really contagious and inspiring. I thank you so much for sharing, Chris. Man, I want to thank you so much for coming to the Halftime Snacks. It has been a pleasure to host you, man. It has been a fun experience, and man, you have so many things in your head that, bringing them into a podcast format is a quite an experience, and I appreciate you coming and sharing with us everything that you did share. And man, looking forward for our discussion in a year's time, and also in 2050, man. We're gonna be talking about this again. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy learning about the business and technology behind sports, make sure you subscribe to the Sports Tech Biz newsletter. I'll leave the link in the show notes. See you all next week. Bye-bye.